Welcome to the Ordinary Marathoner podcast.
Hello and welcome to the Ordinary Marathoner podcast. My name is Coach Scott. I'll be your host today. Guys, I got a great show for you today. I got an amazing guest. We had an amazing time putting this interview together. And wait till you see who I got here. You know who it is too. He's a good dude. No question was off limits. He took some hard issues and he went straight at him. I very appreciate the interview. You're going to like it. As always, you can find this and the back episodes of our podcast at our website, ordinarymarathoner.com. Check that out if you get a chance. You can also find them at the aggregators, places like Stitcher, TuneIn, iTunes, Google Podcast, all that good stuff. Our YouTube channel, if you're watching this on the YouTube channel, do us a favor, hit that subscribe button down there. Get all our content when it comes out. We have our morning rides, our Thursday night rides that we live stream, all that good stuff. All the podcasts are put up on our YouTube channel. Really would appreciate if you hit that subscribe button. It helps us out a lot. Coaching, the coaching thing's been doing great, guys. We more and more athletes signing up. teamordinary.com. Check that out. If you get a chance, join the team. You can be coach, you can be not coach, you can join, you get a nice shirt. People love the shirts, people love the hats. All good stuff. All right. I'd like to bring in today's guest. I am honored to have him here. He is an author. He has the world record for the most Ironman 70.3s in 1 year, the world record for the most Ironman races in 1 year, full Ironman. He completed the 50-50-50 challenge, which is a challenge of his own making, did a documentary on it. And most recently, I've seen him on the Eco Challenge Fiji, which was an Amazon Prime special. It's a great show. Me and Stefany, my wife, watched it. And I'm really excited to have him on the program. James Lawrence, the Iron Cowboy, welcome to the show.
Thanks, dude. Happy to be here and appreciate the time.
Yeah, honored to have you on here as a guest. I want to kind of just talk about sort of your most recent challenge, which for us who are watching TV, it seems like it was, just yesterday that this must have happened. But it was in 2019. Exactly when was the Eco Challenge? Because I think everyone's just kind of just watching it now. But when was the original recording?
Yeah, it was almost a year ago, September 2019. We found out we were accepted to participate and race in the race back in February of 2019. And so we had, 6-7 months to prepare for the challenge. And then it was a 3-week shoot in the back jungle of Fiji.
Yeah, it was really well done too. Really well coordinated and shot. Back in February, how did this all come about for you? Was this something that you ever thought of doing? It seems like you in the past have been very focused on triathlon, sort of that road racing. That's part of triathlon. What made you decide, hey, this is something I might want to do? Go out in the woods for 13 days or whatever it was, and see if I can get from point A to point B.
Yeah, I think I'd accomplished everything I wanted to in triathlon. Loved the sport, did it for over a decade. Got more into mountain biking. We rode our bikes to the top of Mount Kilimanjaro. I did the Cape Epic, which is an 8-day mountain bike stage race through South Africa. And I've just really enjoyed doing diverse things. I ran 235 miles across Greece with some Navy SEALs. Just been really doing some diverse kind of challenges outside of just your traditional swim, bike, run. And a triathlete friend of mine, Sonia from the show, she contacted us and said, hey, this came across my desk. I don't know if you've ever heard of adventure racing, and I really hadn't. I knew it was out there, but didn't know much about it. And she said, the tagline of the show says we eat Ironman for breakfast. And so we wanted to put together a team of all Ironmans. And collectively, our group had done 128 or so Ironmans, and she drove down. She lives in California. She drove down 2 days later, and we filmed the audition tape and sent it in, and we were selected to race and represent the United States as Team Iron Cowboy.
Wow. So there was probably about 60 teams, just estimating from what I remember.
67.
67. And it's funny how when I think the first 2 episodes, you guys were fairly prominent in the filming, and then there was a drop off there where every time we turned it on, I'm like, oh, I'm going to interview this guy, and then like I'd get disappointed every time it would go to an episode, and then you guys weren't on it. But you mentioned that so everyone was an Ironman athlete. You all had sort of a background in competitive sports. When you go out to something like this and you train for 7 months, did you guys expect to, were you out there of the mindset, just finish it and get through the finish line? Or was there a part of you that thought, we've never really done this before, but we are elite athletes. We might compete here.
No, at no point in time did we think we were going to be competitive. Those top tier teams, I mean, I won't give anything away if you haven't seen it, but those top, 5, 10 teams, they've been doing adventure races together as a cohesive team for 10, 15, 20 years. And it really is a team event. You have to know exactly what your teammates are going to do. You have to know how they react, how they're going to do in certain situations, their strengths, their weaknesses. And to be honest with you, it's a navigation race. You can't get lost, and you have a designated navigator on your team. And those teams that are pro navigators have been in those situations before. You just don't have a chance against them. They know how to read maps. They know how to work together. There was just so many elements there was 10 or so different modalities that I've never done before. And just real quick, mountain biking, we've done that. But ascending, rappelling, a Billy section, which I'm not going to tell you what that is. You can go watch the show. Ocean sailing, stand-up paddle boarding, map and compass navigation, jungle trekking, just so much stuff that we had to learn and do. We were flat out told we have no chance to finish. And so with that, we were just out there being patient, figuring out how to navigate this style and kind of racing. It was so outside of our comfort zones that we were just out there to learn and to do something really hard.
Yeah, it sounds like it definitely was that for sure. Now let me ask you this: you mentioned all the different sort of disciplines that you came across during the race. Did you know that there was going to be a Billy section, or does you?
No, they tell you the core things that you can prepare for. I live in Utah, and a Billy is a local boat that they make out of bamboo. And it's a two person stand up on it, and then you move down a river system with a long piece of bamboo as your paddle. We live in Utah. There's no bamboo here, and I wasn't about to ship some bamboo in to try to figure it out. So they spring stuff on you like that. They do it so that it's an element of surprise, trying to figure out something new on the fly. But yeah, they do give you a list. You do have to get certified and proficient in all those things. You do have to pass off safety for all those different things. We were in Fiji for 3 weeks, but the race is only 11 days. And so you've got a lot of prep work and passing off those certifications. Obviously, they don't want anybody to get hurt. A lot of people get hurt, but they want you to be at least safe and proficient with especially the rock climbing and the ascending. We climbed up 1,000-foot waterfall and did some rappelling too. So safety is obviously foremost on their hands, and it's important.
Right. And it's, again, I don't want to give away anything either, but it's worth the watch. And, you mentioned climbing up the wet rocks, and that was the one I think where I looked at it and I thought, yeah, that's where I would say no.
Well, we actually, on the show you saw, we made a decision to climb it at night.
Yeah.
And it turned out to be a great decision for me. I'm not a huge heights guy. I can do it, but I don't like it. And so at night I couldn't see down. It was so dark, and you were just focused on what's in front of you. And that was a great decision for us to do it at night.
Right. It's definitely worth the watch. Let me ask you this though, with all those different things going on, I'm assuming that you guys are kind of from different areas of the world, or the country at least, meaning your team. How did you guys go about training for this, not knowing what everything was gonna, that was gonna come up? Like you said, you knew specific things here and there, but how do you go about training for an unknown event when I'm assuming you guys probably lived in different areas of the country? How did you do that?
Well, the three boys and our TAC, which is a support person, we all live here locally in Utah. and it was only Sonia who lived in California. And so we went to California once to do a training camp, and she lives right on the ocean. Her husband's a captain of a sail club, and so had an opportunity to get on the ocean, learn sailing, things like that. And then she came to Utah a couple of times, and we did some camps here. But for the most part, us three boys just did a lot of training together. We live close to, 3 hours to Moab, where there's some phenomenal rock climbing. That's where we got all of our certifications. We had to get Swiftwater certified and Whitewater Rapid certified. There were sections of that we had to be proficient and safe in. So we do, the only teammate that was out of state was our girl, and the rest of us just dove right in and tried to learn as much as we could, as quick as we could.
Yeah, and it's kind of interesting because the way they portray the story, sometimes you never really know exactly how much training all the teams do. And it's almost like they portray some of them as underdogs, and you're like, oh, how much experience they really have. And they're going down rapids, and like you get nervous for them. But it sounds like, that they're very, the race itself is very good in making sure that you guys are well prepared for what lies ahead, even though sometimes they send you a little surprise here and there.
Well, yeah, I mean, so Team Egypt, they had never been on a rope section as crazy as this one. They had just learned how to do it. They were less experienced than us, and they actually pulled out of the race on that section. And they were just ahead of us, and it was slow goings. And eventually, they let us go around them on the ropes, which was super kind. But yeah, there was a lot of teams out there that it was their first time doing. There's the head of the race, right? Tons of experience, a lot of knowledge, and then there's all these other great stories of people that are just dabbling in the sport and trying to do something hard and pushing mental and physical limits.
So let me ask you this, because it seems like leading up to this, you've kind of focused a lot on individual events. And when I say individual, I know that there's always kind of a team behind you anyway, but when you're out there doing 50, 50, 50, you're on the bike, you do have help, but it's you have to get through the finish line. This was a different kind of event in that you couldn't leave someone behind if they were, you were in it together, four teammates, you're in it together, and you have to get all four of you to the end. How did you find that dynamic to be different in terms of how your mind works, in how you attack a certain event? Whereas usually it seems like most of your challenges have been, all right, how do I get from point A to point B? Now it's like you got to get four people. How did that make it different for you?
Yeah, it's a huge difference when you're. I grew up wrestling, solo sport. I have a passion for golf, solo sport. I do triathlon, solo sport. Whether I win or lose, it's my fault. And there's this very unique component about adventure racing where one fail, all fail. And people always say that you're only as strong as your weakest member. And I think it's the opposite. You're only as strong as your strongest member, because that individual has to go back and help the weaker members of the team. And so as a team, we just tried to all be the strongest member. But it is hard because you not only have to manage your mindset, you have to make sure that everybody else is staying mentally sound, physically tough. And so there is that component of taking energy away from yourself to try to motivate and get other team members doing when they kind of drop and hit that low point. And inevitably, over a course of 2 weeks, you're going to hit some highs and some lows, and you don't all do it at the same time, which I think is great. But yeah, there's that definite component of, you hope everybody has an equal mental stamina and staying power, because you don't want to have to take energy away from what you're doing to try to help them. But that happens, and it's part of the race. And that's why adventure racing is so unique, is because there is that team element. One fail, all fail. And it's just not you out there.
And that being said too, when you're out there and you're pressing on through the jungle, through whatever obstacles ahead of you, is it ever really a race in your mind? Are you ever really, there's a lot of hiking, like you said, a lot of navigating. Do you ever really get that sense of, wow, we're in a race? Or is it just, hey, let's just keep pushing on? It almost seems like you're just going to the next obstacle, getting that done, going to the next obstacle, getting that done. And how is that different from your like a normal race? How mentally when you approach it?
Yeah, I think the longer the race and the lower experience you have, the more it becomes not a race. And you can't be influenced by what other people are doing. You have to put on horse blinders because you have no idea if that person, especially in a race that has 10 different modalities, you don't know if this happens to be their strong point of the race. And if you allow them to dictate what you're doing, it could totally screw you up. And so, yes, there was 67 teams out there. There was 30 countries being represented. But we were four, and we treated it as if we were out there on our own. And we were just out to have an adventure and make sure to stay safe and to keep pressing forward. So yeah, it's not a race. 99% of any field, take the Boston Marathon, take Kona, take what, all of these massive events, the top 2% are the ones that are vying for prize money and position and whatnot. Everybody else is there to have an experience, to push themselves physically and mentally. I speak around the world. I've spoken 48 countries. And one of the things I talk about is that everybody's heart is different. And man, someone that maybe takes 16 hours to finish an Ironman is more impressive than the pro that did 7:58, because that's their heart. And maybe they're not as genetically gifted and they have a huge family and they're doing different things. And so that version of their tough is more impressive to me than someone else who is paid to do it and has the means and a genetic ability and a team behind, all these different things. So truly everybody's heart is different. And I would say most people in challenges like this and even racing across the world, they're just trying to get across the finish line and do something spectacular in their world.
So now you started this, obviously you did all the training and then you went there and you mentioned that they said, oh, you guys probably aren't going to finish, or they didn't give you a chance to finish.
We won't finish.
Was there ever a point where during the race you thought that might be true? At what point was sort of like the lowest, not the low, but was there ever a point where you called in the question, either why am I doing this, or maybe we're not going to be able to get to the finish?
Yeah, so the way that the Eco Challenge is set up is there's 4 main camps, 5 main sections of the race. You go in and out of these main camps, and each time you go into a camp, you get a new set of maps, and you switch out your gear and take as much food as you think is going to sustain you through however long you're out there, not knowing exactly how fast you're going to be able to traverse the challenges. We were through the final camp, and the producers and everything was like, holy crap, you guys are through the thick of this race. You guys are going to finish. And then literally, as we left that camp, our girl Sonia had a complete meltdown, hyperventilating on the side of the road, and lung, breathways closing off, and was literally having a panic attack. And in that moment, we were just like, well, this is something that we can't prepare for. This is something it just is happening. And we were just like, oh crap, we're done. But we rallied around Sonia and got her back going again, and really talked her through the process of being present and being right here, right now. And it's only what we control is in front of us, and the next step is what matters. And we started to move again and get momentum. And so that was probably the only time when we were like, we're done, man. Like there's nothing we can do. Because again, it's a team sport. And if the boys didn't rally and get her going again, we were done, because we can't continue on without her.
Yeah, that's interesting. And it's like it's almost like an Ironman mantra, I think. And it's probably one of the things that they overlooked when saying that you weren't going to be able to finish, was that when you kind of get in that zone, it's just about getting that one step at a time. We had a guest on who said forward is a pace. If you can get yourself going forward, it's a pace. And it's good that you guys are able to finish it. Now, at the very end there, they're interviewing you, and you said, you've done a lot of nutty things, a lot of challenging things that other people would probably deem extremely difficult to finish. Mm-hmm. And I think your comment was something to the effect of that challenge, the Eco Challenge, was more challenging than a Deca Ironman, which for my listeners who don't know means basically 10 Ironmen, either back to back, 10 one Ironman per day for 10 days, or they can break it up and you do all the swimming at once and then do all of the riding and then all the running, which I'm assuming you've done before. Obviously, you've done 50, so 10, a guy like you, not that big a deal. But you still stand by that, or is that or is that like something you said? It seems to me like a deca is insane, and this would be I don't know. I thought that the deca would be harder.
No, so you take any. So I'll answer this in two parts. You take any physical challenge and do 50 days in a row, it's going to be harder than any physical challenge 10 days in a row. So that's why I compared it to a deca, 10 of Ironmanning, which is what I do, and 10 of adventure racing, which is something I don't do. And the reason it's harder is because I'm really proficient at doing swimming, biking, running. That's a controlled environment for me. It's a straight line. It's something that I've been doing for over a decade. You take adventure racing, 10 modalities, and all of the not a closed course, extreme elements, day and night, the team aspect of it. It is far more challenging for me. And I'm not saying it's a blanket statement for everybody. For me, I'm very proficient at doing swim, bike, run. I've done it a lot. I've done over 90 Ironmans, right? So you take something that is where I'm a quote unquote an expert at, it's easier than to take and have me do something that I have no business being there and something we're doing for the very first time. Does that make sense?
No, it does. It does.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we obviously you mentioned the 50-50-50. Let's go back to that too, because that's an interesting point you made. You've done, you did 50 Ironman races in 50 days. So 10 to someone like me who has issues getting through one, and meanwhile, I kind of watch you guys kind of going through the woods and I'm thinking, I could do that. I could do that. You're pretty much checking in my head every little obstacle. I could do that. I could do that. And then you hit, but you do. It's like the overwhelming race on top of that. It's not an obstacle by obstacle. It's there's so much more to it. I think, like you mentioned about the navigation and all that, and the team.
Well, and a deca too. If you're doing swim, bike, run every day, like an Ironman every single day,
yeah.
You're doing 14 to 16 hours a day, right? Eco challenge, it's just day and night. Like you get at least in a deca, you're taking, if it's a stage race, right, where you have to do one a day, you got a downtime. First 48 hours of eco, we didn't stop, and then you get 2-3 hours here and there, and it's just very, very different. And I would say that 10 consecutive Ironmans is easier for me than the unknown elements of the back jungle of Fiji.
Yeah. Would you do it again?
We have applied for season 2 in Patagonia. Registration just closed as of this recording 2 days ago. We will find out in the month of September of 2020 if we are accepted to race season 2. We would love to do it again. We learned a ton by watching the pros. I learned a lot by watching the series on Amazon Prime. We would like to go now, push a pace, and try to take a few more risks. We just learned so much about food and nutrition and packing and equipment and navigation and the dynamics of an eco challenge, right? There's such a huge learning curve, and we're not going to go win Patagonia, but we will take some risks. We will go. It'll just be a different experience, because in life, as you go through it with anything, as you have experiences, you gain knowledge, and then therefore can apply it to something going forward. And we feel that we now have more knowledge than we did the first time, and would like to do better.
Yeah, that's interesting you say that too, because I found that with Ironman myself, just at a micro level compared to what your Ironman being a micro level, but still, you do that first race, you want to just make sure you finish it and you check the box and you got it done. And then what's kind of interesting to me is that you just said that you were watching the other teams on the show, and that you kind of learn like little tips and stuff from what they're. I never really thought of it that way, but I'm sure you picked up some things that you could use for next time. And it's interesting to me that, it seems like everybody, like all these endurance sports, it seems like you get a race done and it's like, yeah, I did it, I felt great. When's the next one? Was this kind of like what you had? Is that the experience you had for this?
I think as humans, it's a blessing that we have a short-term memory
Right.
about how we feel in the moment. I retire every single race that I do. And then within a week, I'm like, ooh, I see something, a different race or a different challenge, and you get amped up and you want to start prepping for that and do it. And then you're in the middle of it and you're like, what the hell was I thinking? And to me, I love the excitement and anticipation of a race and the challenge. And you learn a lot when you're in the middle of a challenge, because things are going to go right, things are going to go wrong. And again, like anything, you learn from those experiences when they go right and when they go wrong. And nobody's perfect. And you just continue to show up and learn every time you have an experience.
Yeah, I think that's a great lesson. So yeah, you guys can find the Eco Challenge on Amazon Prime. It's about 9 episodes. I think it's
10,
nine
10,
episodes,
10.
10 episodes. Yeah, I think it took me and Steph like a week to get through it all. We just jammed it into a week.
We watched it in 2 days. I need to go back and rewatch it.
We can skip like episode 3 and 4. You guys aren't on those. It
We're
drove
not
me
on
nuts.
3, 4, and 5.
It drove me nuts because I watched the first 2 and I'm like, oh, they're going to be on all the time. And then I'm like, where are
But
they? Then we got to watch the next one.
to not spoil it again, we're a lot in 9 and 10.
Yeah.
We
But
start and finish really strong on the show.
what's kind of interesting too is I felt like at the end, and I don't know if you got this feeling too, um, the last few obstacles, especially like rowing in the ocean at the end, they just fast forwarded through that so much that they didn't. I don't know if they didn't have camera crews out in the ocean or whatever, but it's like you
Um,
blinked.
yeah,
And
it's well, and it's
oh
hard
yeah,
too. You got 67 teams,
right.
and by that point, half the teams had dropped out, half the teams had finished, and we were out on the ocean. And what you don't see is that paddle took us 7 hours.
Right. That's exactly what I was getting at.
That was a 7 hour paddle when you're 9 days into racing. Um,
And probably not your comfort zone, right? I mean, being out in
no,
the open
dude,
ocean, probably.
you're out on that ocean open on an outrigger that's tippy,
Yeah. And
and
that,
it
I don't
was
want to ruin
windy.
it.
It was windy, and there's currents, and it is not my strong point. And yeah, it was. You're talking reefs and trying to hit a navigational checkpoint. And when you're on open ocean, I mean, we knew the island we were trying to get to. We could see it. It was Survivor Island, and man, it just never was getting closer. And I mean, you think 7 hours, that's a work day. And that you're out there paddling, and my position was in the front of the boat, and I'm paddling doing the counting, and before we had to switch sides, and I'm counting in my head, and then I call out the last 3 before we switch. And there was a couple of times where I literally fell asleep paddling, and I forgot to do the last 3 counts. And Aaron, which was one of the wingmen, he'd be like, switch. And because I'd be 20 strokes in, it was supposed to be 12. And it was just things like that where you can't. And that's the crazy part about a show too. It's just impossible to convey time frames, because I mean, that Billy standing on that, and we did that section at night, that's 30K. That took us 12 hours. And you just can't, and because they don't say stuff like that
They
on the
don't,
show, you
right.
can't convey standing ankle deep in water, paddling down a river with a bamboo stick and doing it for 12 hours. And that's kind of the eco way, right? They give you a challenge. They maybe don't give you the best equipment for it. And then they triple the distance. And so you're like, okay, I get it. I'm on a Billy. But then it becomes mental, right? You're thinking, okay, this is going to take us 6, 7, maybe 8 hours. And then it turns out to be 12. And you're like, okay, I get it. I'm on a Billy. But it's just that mental grind that they try to break you. And they want to continually break you down. And so it's adventure racing is how well can you control your mind, and how well can you guys navigate and stick together as a team and keep moving as a cohesive unit?
And it's got to be kind of easy to get distracted too. Like you're talking about being out in the boat in the middle of the ocean for 7 hours, just saying, stroke this, whatever. And do you guys like tell stories? Do you just get sick of each other? Do you, or are you just focused on the task at hand?
You just focus on the task at hand, and at that point, that 7 hour paddle at the end, I mean, we were all exhausted, and we knew we could talk when we were done. And yeah, you get a little bit tired of each other over 10 days, 24 hours a day. You've told every story to each other at this point. I mean, we did, those jungle treks. You're going at a slow pace, and you're knee deep in mud and all these different things. And so you're talked out by that point of the race for sure.
Yeah, it seems really just trying mentally and physically, and especially when you guys don't have that navigation experience too. Like that's another, it's not only the mud, but you're in the middle of the woods. It's like you're used to like the Ironman courses that are kind of marked out, or the trails that are marked out, and to add that layer, I think that's one of the more aggravating things. Other teams got lost.
Yeah, and sometimes you're traveling hours in one direction, hoping
Right.
you've got the right coordinates and whatnot. Because you look at Team Japan, who went 12 hours in a wrong direction and couldn't get back on track, and ultimately was eliminated from the race. So that's always in the back of your mind, right? Like, are we on the right coordinates? Are we headed down the right trail? Or, because every part of the Fiji jungle looks the same, and so that was super challenging.
So would you? I don't know. I think looking back, I still have you. You're still going to be the 50-50-50 guy. I don't know if you're going to be the eco challenge guy.
No, I'll always be known for the 50.
Are you you have anything else planned other than the next eco challenge? Is there anything else going on in your world in terms of I don't know. I can't imagine the guy that thought up the 50-50-50. Is there ever any kind of other ideas that go on in that head that maybe might come out one day?
Yeah, don't blink in 2021. It's going to be a special year. We're going to kick the year off. Actually, in October, I'm going down to do a relay, and it's called the Uberman. And so I'm doing the 400-mile bike leg of the race. It finishes with the 135-mile Badwater run, and the swim is from Catalina Island to Long Beach area, which is 22 miles. So we're going to go try to break the course record for that. And then in May, I'm doing the Epic Deca, which is 10 consecutive Ironmans in Hawaii. And it's a structured race. So I'm going to go try to compete at that. And then in June, I'm on a team of 8 spectacular athletes. And we're going to do RAM, which is Race Across America, the bike race. So we're gonna go try to win the co-ed open division. And then there's a treat for everybody in the back half of 2021.
All right. That's not the eco challenge? That's something.
If they can get it to fly and we get accepted onto the team, Eco Challenge Patagonia will be end of February, beginning of March next year.
Okay. All right. So, all right. Interesting. That's a full schedule. But
Yeah.
you guys can catch, like I said, you guys can catch James over at the Eco Challenge on Amazon Prime. You can also get your documentary, Iron Cowboy, which depicts his 50-50-50 challenge. Really incredible. We talked about it a little bit before the show. I don't even want to kind of really go there with what we were talking about beforehand.
Let's do it. Let's do it. I love it.
I like to keep a happy show.
This will be happy.
And it is happy because when I mentioned to people that I was interviewing you, I got a lot of people that said, "Oh, that's awesome." And then there's a couple people that were like, "Oh yeah, but the whole 50-50-50 thing." And I was like, "What?" Because to me, so 50-50-50, for you guys don't know, it's 50 Ironman distance races, although they weren't really sanctioned races. They were your own courses in most cases, in 50 different states in 50 consecutive days. And really, the one thing, and I guess there's a little bit of I don't even want to say controversy, because for me, it's not. I finished an Ironman in 17 hours, 0 minutes, and 52 seconds. And there are people that will tell me that I didn't finish an Ironman, but yet Mike Riley put the medal around my neck and he called me an Ironman. And I'm saying that's good, because of those 52 seconds. The thing, I think, if there's any controversy, it's the use of the elliptical on one day of the race, which was somewhere down south, if I'm not mistaken. Why don't you can go
Yeah,
ahead. You're going to be able to take it from there much better than me.
yeah, for sure. I'll tell it. And so the 50 challenge was to attempt 50 consecutive Ironmans, our own courses, because there aren't 50 sanctioned events 50 days in a row in every single state. It's just not possible. And so the challenge was, can I cover the distance every single day? And right in the first 20 days, when we rolled into Texas, we were following Hurricane Bill, and it pushed us inside for a day, and nobody had a problem with that. We used power, we used a treadmill. It was for safety reasons. And then in Chattanooga on day 18, I fell asleep on my bike and I crashed. And severe road rash, some hip trauma. Finished that day, went to Mississippi the next day, and Hurricane Bill was still present. And massive weather warnings, torrential lightning, winds, massive rain. And so we started the day inside and did the swim in a pool, no problem. Went outside and braved the weather warnings on the bike. And then we were going to do the run inside again. And again, the public didn't have a problem with this. And in training, we had done many sessions on the elliptical in order to ease the stress on the body, to simulate the running. And that's fine in training. And so I was more than halfway done the run in Mississippi, and my hip was just killing me. And the goal was to raise money for childhood obesity. And I called up my coach and I said, hey, what do you think? Should I jump on the elliptical? And he was like, oh, that's a great idea. We can simulate running that way and fight another day. Because there was no prize money. There was no competition. It was just me and this personal challenge that we were doing to raise money for charity. And every single day we would post a picture of how we finished. And I didn't even think about it, and it was just something that we did in training, and we jumped on the elliptical, and it was for the back portion of the marathon, and we took the picture and posted it online, and the public lynched us, and they attacked us. Man. Social media, you love the keyboard warriors, and seriously, I do want to say that it's like less than 1% of people that care.
But it bothers you. It's got to bother
you.
Well,
it does and it doesn't, because I learned a lot from doing it. One, I learned that we're not perfect as humans, and I also learned that those people are idiots because they've never been in a situation, and you can't possibly, I don't judge anybody for things that they do now, because you can't judge a person's decision not having any clue or concept what they're going through and what the implications of a decision makes. And we're not perfect, and I don't think the decision was right or wrong. It was a decision. And here's the crazy cool part about it. So it did bug me. And the bullies came out and they said what they wanted to say, and a lot of them have apologized to me at this point, because they've changed their perspective on what and how it happened. But here's the cool part. I totaled up all the mileage that we covered at 7,030 miles, and then I took the miles that we covered on the elliptical, and it is 0.24%. Right. 0.24% of the total mileage, right? So 99.76% of the time we executed with perfection, and we made a small mistake. And here's what's really interesting is I almost quit. I almost let that chatter. I almost let those people, and I hope those couple people that sent you that message are listening, because they're clowns. And I have. And
I gotta be honest. It was more of like an informational. Like, did you know that he did the elliptic?
Oh, did you know? I call it the elliptigate. And here's the thing. Here's the thing. Before I continue.
Yeah.
I addressed it day of. I addressed it day after. It's in the documentary. It's in the book. I have never hid behind it. I actually call it lovingly the elliptigate. It happened. But here's what's really cool is I almost quit, and I almost allowed someone else's opinion of my journey influence my decision to continue. And it's a massive mistake, because it's literally 0.24%. And trust me, the overwhelming majority of people don't care. And we weren't out there to, it's not a world record. It was never registered with Guinness. It was a personal challenge to go raise money and have an impact. And we've inspired hundreds of thousands of people around the world to make change, to overcome alcoholism, to get out of physical abusive relationships, to do their own physical challenge, to get up off the couch. We raised over $100,000 for childhood obesity. I mean, it's just, don't ever allow someone else's opinion to dictate your journey, especially when it's 0.24% of your journey. Had I quit in that moment, my life would be completely different. And the decision to continue, I mean, hell, I've literally spoken in 48 countries. I've spoken to every Fortune 500 company. I've had hundreds of thousands of messages roll in that we've changed the way they think and perceive of what's possible. If you're on your own journey right now, don't listen to anybody else. Don't listen to the less than 1%ers that are sitting at home that don't have the courage to do something hard, to show up every single day on a daily basis, to continue to grind. Those people's opinions don't matter. And anybody who has a problem with how we did and what we did and the decisions that we make, DM me. Call my cell phone. It's on my social media. Email me, james@ironcowboy.com. I will have a conversation with me, and you can tell me everything that we did wrong in your opinion of how we did it. Go ahead. I am an open book. I'll go on Instagram Live with anybody and have this conversation. I've never hid it. I've been an open book about it. I'm glad we did that decision because it has given me a platform to talk about listening to the percentage of people that want to tell you to quit. And it's because they're jealous. It's because they don't have the courage. It's because they're not capable and they think they have a voice and they don't.
Yeah. And I think, your lesson there about, you're just being almost ready to quit because of that. It's like the bike accident didn't get you down. The hurricane didn't stop you. The thing that almost did was comments from the peanut gallery,
cyberbullying.
And that would have been, I mean, that would have been a loss for everybody. It would have been a loss all the way around for a lot of folks. And I know in your fundraising that it really picked up kind of towards the end there. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, think about the lack of the loss just right there of all the people that you have helped since then, just for making that decision to continue. I got to say, I did some thinking about it at first because I train the same way. And actually I have a client who's a little bit injured and I have her on the elliptical because for the same reason that you were saying in training, it mimics running without the impact and risk of injury, the higher risk of injury. But,
real quick, if anybody hasn't been on elliptical for 26 miles and wants to go try that, go do it, man. Your feet go completely numb, and mentally it is a tougher grind than it is normal running. It is not easy.
I agree with you. I mean, the only thing I can think of is that the calibration of miles seems like it's never exact as much as it would be on a treadmill. That's the only thing I could think of but I agree. I would never want to be, I could be on I probably could do a treadmill marathon. I wouldn't want to do an elliptical marathon. So it's kind of like a give and take there. But the other thing I thought of was, Ironman itself, if it's bad weather outside, you know what they do?
Cancel
a race, or they cancel the swim, and they tell you to go out there and do the two. And then you do the two disciplines. They cancel the swim. You go out
and they still call you an Ironman.
And they still call you an
Ironman. Exactly. So, and you didn't even do the swim. You took out 1/3 of the race, and they still call you an Ironman.
Did you ever think of that before? Because I feel like I
didn't. That's the first time. You're the first person that has made it, and so I applaud you for even thinking of that.
Yeah, I had friends of mine in Lake Placid that they were in the water doing the first loop, and there was lightning, and they pulled everyone out of the water, and they after one loop, and then they put them on their bikes and put them on the run. But they, and it's one of those things too that you got to judge. Then it becomes like your own personal thing.
Yep.
How are you gonna, so for me, my 17 hours, 0 minutes, 52 seconds. Those are my 52 seconds. Mm-hmm. It's what it is. It's over time, it's starting to bother me a little bit.
Well, there's a lot of opportunities. Go out and do it again.
Exactly.
Same thing happened. St. George 2012, microburst winds came in. The water got turned upside down. 80% of the field came out of the water, and they let them go on the bikes. And they called every single one of those guys an Ironman.
Yep. So there you go. There you go. I think I'm going to count it. If I'm the official, I'm going to count it. And you know what? If someone doesn't want to count it, then they're invited to go out and do it themselves.
Well, here's the thing, and here's a lesson for everybody. Don't You should not care about what anybody else thinks. The only people that care are you and your spouse, your kids, and your inner circle. Everybody else, why do I care what you think? Dude, my life is amazing because I chose to continue on.
Right.
I have really learned to not care what anybody thinks, and the only opinion I care is the man above, this guy, my wife, and my kids. That's it. I do not care what anybody else thinks.
Well, I appreciate you should care about the ratings though on Amazon Prime for the Eco Challenge though. You should care about that.
No, I don't.
All right. Well, listen, James, thanks so much for coming on the show, man. I really appreciate appreciate you taking that tough question head on. I think it's it just shows that I offered it to you before. I said, hey, if you don't want me to bring it up, I won't. And you said, yeah, bring it up. And then I wasn't going to bring it up, and you're like, no.
No, let's do it. I appreciate, man. That. It was you're a classy dude. Your insight's been great. I've enjoyed the conversation. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, James. Let's just tell everyone quickly you kind of mentioned it before when you said reach out to me. Where can we find you? Social media platforms, and the name of your book and all that good stuff. Where can we get all that stuff?
Yeah, Iron Cowboy James, kind of across the social media platforms. I'm very active on Instagram. Our website is ironcowboy.com. We've got the book Redefine Impossible. Eco Challenge is currently on Amazon Prime. So is our documentary, The Story of the 50. I answer all my own DMs. I answer all my own emails. You want to talk to me? You have a question? Let's go.
Awesome. I really appreciate you coming. Appreciate your time. Anytime you want to come back, let me know.
Okay. Have a good night.
And it's been my honor. So thank you so much, James. Thanks for coming on the show. Ladies and gentlemen, Iron Cowboy, James Lawrence. Thank you.
Peace out.
All right. There you have it. That was James Lawrence, the Iron Cowboy. Great guest. What a great guy. Great discussion there we had, and didn't even shy away from the toughest questions. I really appreciate that. We'll come back at you later this week with some more podcasts. Been doing the morning rides. Check us out at 5 a.m. every morning on the live stream over at YouTube. And remember, every day is an ordinary day unless you make it extraordinary. So get after it, guys.